So close, and yet so far. Find out where I'm at on my layout after the titles. Hey everybody, Anthony Dodge, the model train outsider, the Miracle Outsider, a Knight of the Rhomboid table here with a layout review update. Where'd I start? Where am I going? What am I doing now? Video. All right, just to get everybody up to speed, if you're new to the channel and maybe you care, maybe you're not interested, but let's go back to the beginning. Map of Germany. In 2003, I started an exchange program with a city in Germany called Delmenhorst. I live in Toledo, Ohio, and it was our German sister city at the time. It no longer is, and I'm very sad and angry about that, but that's a different story. Now, if you don't know where Delmenhorst is, here's a map of Germany. And here's the border with Denmark, and you come down a little ways, you've got Hamburg. If you go diagonal from Hamburg, there's Bremen. If I start zooming into Bremen, eventually, as I zoom into Bremen and pull it down, you'll see the name Delmenhorst pops up. Delmenhorst is a small city, about 72,000 people, basically west of Bremen. But despite its close proximity with Bremen, Delmenhorst was actually more connected to a city much further to the west called Oldenburg. And Delmenhorst started, there's Oldenburg right there. So even though Delmenhorst is much closer to Bremen, Delmenhorst actually belonged to the Duchy of Oldenburg in the Middle Ages. In fact, Delmenhorst started as a border fort to keep an eye on Bremen and the Archbishop of Bremen's territorial aggressions, as well as to the north, Denmark. So that's where Delmenhorst got its name. Horst is the name, Old Germanic word for a small fortified position, a small fort, small castle, defensive position. And Delma is the river that flows here. It's a small stream that branches off from the Weser, I believe, but which is in Bremen. So Delmenhorst started as a small little fortified town, and the castle is long since gone. There was an actual fortified stone castle here. It's long since been torn down and removed, but to this day in Delmenhorst you can still see the double moat system there. And so I wasn't into trains when I started this exchange program, but beginning with my first trip to Delmenhorst, we traveled by train everywhere. We never rented cars. We never took buses. The idea of a school bus taking us places, unheard of. You hop on a train or you rent a tourism bus. But we went everywhere by train. And I fell in love with traveling by train. It was so much easier over there. And just my students and I are going to go someplace, hop on a train, we're there. So anyhow, I fell in love with Delmenhorst. And then I fell in love with trains. And then I bought some trains for my classroom in 2015, really about the time my exchange program ended. It died in 2016. But we fell in love with it, and we love the city of Delmenhorst. So I bought a train and then decided to build a layout. And one of the first things that was decided is I'm going to represent Delmenhorst on my layout. So there are two key parts of Delmenhorst. The first part is right here. It's the town hall and the market square. But that also includes this curling road right here, which is called Langestrasse. Langestrasse is the oldest road in Delmenhorst. It's been there since the village started. The fort was actually there first, which is this area here called Berginsel, Castle Island. And you can see how important it was because it has a double moat system, which is very rare for such a small castle. But anyhow, so the market square and the main original road of the city that all the original villagers lived on and so forth in protection of the castle. Okay, so that's one area. The second area is up here, and that is the train station right here with its 3 platforms and the bus terminal, the bus Zeobay. And then there's a bunch of roads that kind of highlight the border. But what I'll do is I will take this down and put up a slightly different map, basically same map, but with a slightly different view to highlight what I'm talking about. All right, so these two circles are the areas I wanted to recreate, the main areas I wanted to recreate. So again, originally I would have loved to have added the Bergensel, but if I had done one giant square table, which is how I started, yes, I was going to just do the whole thing, Bergensel, Town Hall, but there's reasons things didn't happen. But you have Town Hall and the Market Square, and then so you can see Langestrasse curling through right here, Market Square area, and then the train station up here, and then right here off the Market Square with some of the few remaining older buildings dating back probably to the 1600s, 1700s. There's nothing left in Delmenhorst from the 12th through 18th century that really stands up in the city itself. Anyhow, when you come through the main area here with the main shopping is all along this area, there is this street right here, which takes a 90 or a 45 degree turn and heads to the train station, Bahnhofstrasse. All right, that is another main street. Langestrasse is the main street, the main shops, but there's a lot of shops and other businesses all along Bahnhofstrasse because if you're walking to the train station or coming in from the train station, that's the road you're going to go into town with, and therefore that's where you're going to have your shops and a lot of main stuff. Anyhow, there are some other areas that fit this in. For example, there's Markstrasse, which at Langestrasse changes its name, and up here it becomes Mühlenstrasse here. And then there's Bahnhofstrasse. Right here, coming off Langestrasse, is Schulstrasse, and that becomes sort of the right-hand border of the area the eastern border of the area I'm trying to reproduce. So, and then in front of the train station, there's Wiedekindstrasse, and then across from the, and by the way, Wiedekindstrasse is one way, and I believe it's one way, as you're looking at the map, it's one way that way. I got to make sure I'm pointing correctly. It's one way to the left. And then on the other side of the bus station is the matching street that goes the other direction one way, and that is Luisenstrasse or Kopelstrasse. It curls right here by the City Hotel. Curls right there. It's Luisenstrasse up to Bahnhofstrasse, then becomes Kopelstrasse. It might be Luisenstrasse all the way up to Schulstrasse. I forget. So those are the areas I'm trying to recreate. But there's a problem with those. So let me pull up a picture that makes it a little less confusing. So here's the region. Again, the most obvious feature is that double moat area. And then the town hall would be right here, that gray circle right here. That's the town hall. The market square is right in here. And then here again, you can see Markstrasse, which becomes Mühlenstrasse right through here. And then Bahnhofstrasse is right here. Kirchestrasse and then Schulstrasse. And I'm trying to recreate these two areas. Let me see if I can highlight them. So there, with my Crayola crayon approach, you can see the two areas I want to highlight and then the main roads that are a part of that area that have the areas I want to feature. Marktstrasse, Mühlenstrasse, again, same road here. This road is just more like a boundary. It's not important to me other than if I want to recreate it, there is a post office, and here you see it's the Postbank Filial. Filial is an office. And it's a post office and the Postbank, because in Germany the post office has its own banking. It also has its own travel, and it too much. Okay, so here you can see Wiedekindstrasse all the way, and yeah, going, well, that way as you're looking. No, I'm sorry, going that way as you're looking. And then Luisenstrasse, Kopelstrasse, one way the other direction. And then the bus terminal is right in here. So here's Wiedekindstrasse, which flows this way. Luisenstrasse to Kopelstrasse, which flows this way. And with Friedrich Ebert Allee or even Schulstrasse, it forms a big loop. which we'll factor in a minute. The green here is Bahnhofstrasse, the most important street I want to recreate, and then the Kirchstrasse, Church Street, and the main church would be right in this area. And then the blue is Langestrasse. Notice how it waves and winds. All right, the one thing I want you to look at this orientation, or even if I were to go back to the previous map, if you look at the town hall, while it looks relatively straight down, a little bit of a bend, it's actually at a 45-degree angle to the train station and the bus station. I built a very square table. I could build this, but it created problems. And I want to show you what those problems are, but not on either of the maps I've shown you so far, but on my actual layout. But I want you to kind of see these maps to get an idea of what I'm trying to create. So if you look at this map, you see that wavy Langestrasse, and again, the town hall, the Rathaus, is right here, and if you follow the gray street, it's a 45-degree angle from Delmenhorst. Well, that created problems, which I'll show you on a picture from my actual layout. Okay, that'll work. So here is my actual table as it looks right now. I took this picture just a few minutes ago. This is what I'm dealing with. Now, there's the train station right there and the bus center. Those are two parts that I had to get full. I had to get them full. I wanted them. The train station, because I wanted it to be accurate. And that train station, I'm proud to say, is 100% inside and out scale and detail accurate to the actual Delmenhorst train station as it looked in 2019. So anyhow, I've had these buildings out and made it a representation of Delmenhorst for a long time, but it's nothing how Delmenhorst should look. But if I was going to do this 100% accurately, the Rathaus would be right here. The Rathaus would be right here, diagonal, that 45-degree angle to the train station. But the minute I put it there, if I build the Rathaus and the station, and the water tower, the Rathaus and the water tower at that 45-degree angle in here, it would take up a lot of space in here, and then the market square would actually fill up all this area, even cutting in to the area where I'm trying to set up the Fowler car bus route, because that's what the Fowler car system was originally meant to do. It's just going to represent the buses coming in and out of the bus depot. I had it working 4 years ago, and then I decided to try to digitize it, and it's been a 4-year series of frustrations ever since, and I can't get it to work right, and so I don't run it. Anyhow, be that as it may. So it didn't fit. So building the station and building the Rathaus and the market square, even close to scale, would just make it impossible to represent Langestrasse and even Bahnhofstrasse. It just did not work. There's no way I could do it. And that has driven me crazy for 4 years. It's one of many reasons why I haven't worked very hard on it until this year. I just could not. Logic said, forget the town hall. And I've had people tell me, well, just forget the town hall. It's like, no, it's one of the main sites of Delmenhorst. So I got to have the town hall. And finally, Joyce and Jean Ricard at different times suggested, well, could you do just a relief, a miniature version? And I forget whose final idea it was, combination of 3 people debating back and forth. But it was like, well, could you just do a picture and make a relief? You know, take a thin piece of wood, put a picture of the front on one side, a picture of the back on the other, and voila, you have the station, or the Rathaus. Yeah, why not? It took me a long time to accept that. Like, no, I want the actual building there. But the more I thought about it, the more it created so many problems. The other problem is, even by doing the skinny relief here and doing a smaller version of the square here, it still had the roads coming off funky here, and I didn't like the way that worked. It had areas over here that were not what I wanted to represent, and then some of the cool buildings and little areas I wanted to were limited to a tight area in here. So the second major decision I made, number one, give up a full-scale version of this town hall and the market square. Just give up on it. Okay, giving up. Then, the hardest decision, because at least with the photograph, you're still representing things in the right place. But it had to move from here. If I was going to get anything of what I wanted to represent, it needed to be over here. It needs to be over here, but that's not where it is. In reality, it's over here at an angle. So what I did was I changed the geometry of the geography. I changed the geometry of the geography, and here's what I've done. So here's that Markstrasse, Mühlenstrasse, still sort of my west side limit. And then way over here, Schulstrasse, sort of the east side limit. And now I do have a compacted area. I still have to compress. I can't do the 3 blocks it is, but I can do hints of key buildings from each of the blocks. But also Langestrasse, that snaking road, it gets kind of straightened out. So it doesn't really look, although even as I've done this video, I'm thinking, nah, I should probably still curve it around correctly. And then also Bahnhofstrasse, instead of being that straight 45-degree shot here and then the 45-degree turn, I've kind of curved it a bit. But the more I think of that, the more I'm not liking it. I'm thinking, nope, I'm going to just do, if Langestrasse, even if Langestrasse stays straight, which it probably isn't, I'm just going to curve it, because Bismarckstrasse here, which was sort of the southern border of my area, just get rid of it. I'm going to put the Rathaus right next to the track, even though in reality there's no track near the town hall except what's at the train station. I'm just going to put it next to the train lines. Forget that little road. You can see there's sort of a pseudo Bismarckstrasse there. That's gone. Market Square goes here. And then I'm going to go ahead, and as I think about it, I'm going to still curl Langestrasse in properly and go ahead and do the 45-degree angle of Bahnhofstrasse. It means I'm going to lose some buildings and things in here that I think would help sell the accuracy. But really, Kirchstrasse here is just for the church right there. Although in reality, the church would be turned 90 degrees with the steeple facing the road. Actually, it would go about right here is where the church is. Right here as this point comes in. And then, yeah, just angle this in and get this area right, some of the buildings in here right. But again, I'm not even going to work very hard on getting the roads on the housing and the buildings on Mühlenstrasse correct. I'm just going to use whatever I have, throw it over there. It's not important. The key is to get this center area right. And that's what I'm going to have to work on. There's a tower in here that my friend Mark from Outer Railway Fantasia sent me, and I was going to paint that up, add some bits to it, paint it up, and make it look like the Delmenhorst Water Tower. But I've just decided I can't do the water tower, so I'll have to figure a different place for that. And then I'll just get the various buildings and shops and jerry-rig what I can. Actually, many of these buildings you see on here are based on buildings in Delmenhorst. In fact, there's a building right here in the bottom right-hand corner. That is actually about 80% accurate to a building that sits right here at the corner of Langestrasse and Bahnhofstrasse. And yes, it's going there. It will be going over there. And then there's other shops that are next to it. I've got to get one more building similar to that, which would go over here near Kirchstrasse, which is a building called City Point, which again is this 90-degree corner building. You know, it goes around at the corner. And But then I've got so many buildings here that are modeled on actual businesses and sites along these streets that are the heart. So I will work very hard on making this area proper to Delmenhorst. And then I'm not going to worry about the fringe areas like Mullenstrasse over here and even Schulstrasse here. But yeah, in the long run, this hill goes. But that leads me to the problem. I can't do this until I solve the next problem. And what's the next problem? Well, retaining walls. I have to put in retaining walls. And my plans for retaining walls have drastically changed since I built this table. All right, if I zoom in, here is Delmenhorst Station, okay? This is Delmenhorst Station here. Delmenhorst Station has, and you can see in this lighter gray paint, it's a concrete wall. This is basically a concrete bunker. They just dug through a hill and actually piled up the area higher. The station used to be here, but it was at grade level. They piled it up. They knocked down the old lovely train station and replaced it with this more modern one that is now subterranean with the rails above it. So anyhow, there is a concrete wall, and then beginning about right here on this side, bushes and trees, and then it becomes just ground. There is no retaining wall here. It's just ground sloping down. The problem is, if I slope those down the way they are done in reality, they'll get in the way of my buses running for the bus station Fowler car system. So I've hemmed and hawed, like, do I do a narrow drop off? But now that I've done all the grass, there's a lot of green in a lot of areas. And I've decided that even though it's not prototypical, even though it's not realistic, I want to extend and have retaining walls all the way around this area. Because if I zoom out, if you see this little yellow bus here, he is situated exactly where the incline ends or begins, but it goes upwards going this way until it reaches a height of about 2 inches. So it starts at nothing, grade level, and goes up to 2 inches. It's a Woodland Scenics 2% incline. And that is supposed to be about, I forget what the distance is here. It's like 10 feet, 12 feet total length. It's been a long time since I worked on it. All right, if I then look to the other side, here we go. The incline is all level through here, and then it starts to decline. Coming around this corner here, it starts to decline and goes down. And you can see I have put in some temporary testing retaining walls, but I don't like the look of this. That's this right here. I don't like the look of these. The style I like, the look is wrong, because in northern Germany they don't do this stone and granite. They do concrete. Now, in reality, it doesn't matter, because in reality it's a green hill there. But I think this does a nice job of separating these ideas, because in reality those tracks would run straight. They wouldn't curve around as you see them there. They would run straight. One direction runs straight to Bremen, the other direction runs straight to Oldenburg. All right, so I've got to do retaining walls. And the problem is, I think I could take this off. You could see what I'm doing. I want to go all the way around with retaining walls, at least to a point, and then once I'm outside the Fowler car area, I can do hills again. So again, if I zoom this picture out, about where this hill starts, that would all have to be retaining wall. And then you have this large bump here, which will come out eventually. Sadly, the windmill probably goes. I'm going to have to do something else here, because I need my Schulstrasse to come through here with and come up here to this point. It's going to be road and residential up here, and this hill comes out. It's an old wargaming hill. I've thrown it there. It's been there for so long. It's become a part of it, and people like it. I've got some jokes on it too, but be that as it may, that has to come out so I can put in Mullenstrasse there, or not Mullenstrasse, Schulstrasse there. So that has to come out. So somewhere up into this point, I've got to do retaining wall. Now the thing is, I want the retaining wall staggered, at least staggered, but I need it to be concrete. And I even bought, and I'm going to increase my self here, this Keybree kit. Let me get where it's not glaring. And I thought, well, that would work because it's got the stagger. You can see where it starts low and goes up a bit and goes up a bit, and you can design it any way you want. The problem is the pieces are very thin, and a concrete embankment would not be that thin. Even in 1/87 scale would not be that thin. It'd be probably at least 3 of these. That's why I like these. These actually are about the right thickness, and yeah, it's about 3 of these thick. I like this in terms of idea, but I bought this and used these as testing. This is paper, photograph from Noch, glued onto some foam board. And the nice thing about foam board is you can either cut it or you can just bend it, and you can shape this. And with the curves I've got, shaping this is a really good idea. So I need something like this, but I need it to look like cement or concrete walls with just a few seams. So unfortunately, I've got the solution. I just got to find what I can do, and whether I have to 3D print and stagger it, or do I just take the foam board without the paper on it, spray paint it with concrete textured spray paint, and then I got to cut it and stagger it to fit the gentle sloping down. So that is where I'm at now. I'm eager to do this because once I get the retaining walls in, I'm done with the basic level of greenery. But now, in all honesty, I want the retaining walls in so that I can go back, fill in the scenery that needs to fill in behind the walls, the retaining walls, and level things up correctly. And then I can go in and add the little scenery, the static grass, and some of the other things I want to add as I need. But the real thing is, once I get the retaining walls in, Delmenhorst gets done. I've got the road pieces for Delmenhorst. I've got everything for Delmenhorst ready to go. I've got a ton of buildings ready to go in. Rearrange the streets as mentioned. But Delmenhorst is ready to go, and that includes getting the Fowler car system ready. But this layout has always been about, I didn't care about the Bremen site as much, but getting Delmenhorst. And I am now that close to having Delmenhorst ready to go. But I got to solve this retaining wall problem. I got this. I finally did the scenery enough that I'm ready to put the retaining walls in. And then I'll go back and do the scenery with whatever static grass and bushes and bramble I want to put in. But really, it's always been about Delmenhorst itself. So retaining walls, coming up with a happy solution to retaining walls. That leads to working on Delmenhorst and getting that Fowler car system, which was the other big thing I wanted to do. And then I can go back and do the scenery and work on the Bremen-Hanover hybrid side. So retaining walls are the big issue. And Tom Houston, I've been gone all weekend with our family get-together out of town. And I just got back and saw your email with the 3D prints. I'll look at those, but you said you based them on the Keybree. And as I said, the Keybrees were too thin, but if your things look thick, I'll take a look at those. The width and dimensions and lengths and the height are going to be very important because it starts at 2 inches. And of course, I want it at least 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 an inch above grade because it acts as a nice scenic break between Delmenhorst and the rail lines going behind Delmenhorst. So I've got to get that sorted, but a nice staggered, and I got to draw the math out and say, okay, this is where I put the stagger points in, descending down. I'm even toying with using Legos and then painting them, but I've got a bunch of foam boards, so I'd rather use that and save money. So on that note, I probably rambled. It's probably confusing, but I hope you get a gist of where I started, where I'm at, and where I'm going. And on that note, I'm going to say, auf Wiedersehen, tschüss, and happy trains. Take care, everybody.